Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bespoken Faith Podcast. I'm your host, Gabrielle Beth, and today I'm going to be sharing with you the story of the man who I dated for 4 years and the relationship that turned into a 10-year situationship. I very briefly hinted at the story in the last episode, and if you haven't listened to my previous episodes, just so you know, I am sharing my entire life story from before birth to where I am today. So yeah, if you want to hear my entire life story, I recommend listening to my previous episodes. Like I just mentioned, in this one, I'm going to be talking about the 10-year relationship of the man who I was with or was speaking to for about 10 years. Today's episode is basically all of the information that I wish somebody would have told me when I was first leaving this relationship and all the things I did that I shouldn't have done when leaving this relationship, because I would have saved myself 6 years of going back and forth and agonizing, just bull crap, honestly. So yeah, before I get started, please go get yourself something to drink, maybe something to eat, some tea maybe, since I will be spilling some major hot tea in today's episode, and I will see you in 1 minute. So just to catch you all up to speed, me and this guy, his name is Michael, we go way, way back. I met this guy when I was 15 years old. We dated for a very, very brief moment when I was 15, and he thought that I was the love of his life. He was majorly in love with me, and he tried to win me back, and I just kept saying no, like I'm too young, I need to figure out my life. I mean, it's super rare to be a 15 or even 16-year-old and know that the person that you're dating is the love of your life. So yeah, fast forward 2 years later, I was battling major depression. I was suicidal. I was literally planning to kill myself, and my mom didn't know what to do. So she knew that me and Michael had something special in the past, and she reached out to him and asked him if he would at least call me. And he did. He called me. And after that first phone conversation, we kind of kept in touch after that and started texting. After a few more conversations, he asked me on a date, and so we got together and we decided to just start dating again. Once we started dating again, this was in 2013. I'm now 18 years old, and when him and I started dating, oh my god, that was 10 years ago. So yeah, him and I started dating, and we are absolute best friends. We made many great memories together, but then in like 2016, I started going to church and starting my relationship with God, and that started to create a wedge between Michael and I. I started to realize after going to church for a while that I wanted to actually marry a Christian one day. I wanted to raise my children up in Christ. And so I confronted Michael about this. I tried to disciple him, and for a while, he was really putting his best foot forward and really trying to be a Christian. And, for a while I really thought things would work out, but something happened about a month before I actually ended things with him, and I don't even want to share what that something was, but it just kind of proved to me that he wasn't like fully where I wanted him to be in terms of a Christian. We went on this trip. He got us a hotel that had a hot tub and stuff, and like it was very romantic, but we ended up having sex on this trip, even after I had, told him my convictions about not wanting to do it anymore. We still did, and I already knew in my heart that I didn't want to do that anymore, and that I knew that I was breaking God's heart by having sex outside of marriage. And so we did it a few times over that weekend, and every time we'd get done, I would just go in the bathroom and I would just like put my head down into my hands and I would just sob and I would cry because it would just be so painful. Like, when you put yourself in that situation, it's really hard to stand firm in your faith, especially when, you know, you've been with this person for almost 4 years, and it's really hard to just like put an end to your old lifestyle and trying to create a new life for yourself and follow Christ. It's like, in that moment, like, that weekend trip like revealed a lot to me, and I knew that I basically had to end things with him if I was going to pursue Christ. So yeah, when we got back from that trip, I got home and I was living with my grandparents at the time, and my grandma said I looked even more like upset than before I had went on this trip. And I said, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm just so confused. Like, I really need to pray about what I'm gonna do, because I wasn't sure like if I was gonna stay with Michael or not. So yeah, Michael and I break up and I moved to North Carolina shortly after that. And then I'm starting this whole new life with Christ and my family. I'm back with living with my family and everything's good. So I moved to North Carolina in April of 2017, and it didn't take long. I want to say it was about 4 months before I received a text from who other than my ex. And he was just sending a text, you know, just saying hi and letting me know that if I ever needed anything, that he was there for me. During this time, though, I was in love with somebody else. I don't think I even shared anything about this yet. So right before I left New Jersey, I knew that I was going to break up with Michael, and there was this guy at the church that I was going to. He was much older than me. He was I want to say he was like 36, maybe 38, and I was like 22. Yikes. And he was just very hot though. Like, he was super like fit. He did construction, like woodworking, and like he was just absolutely gorgeous. And I developed a very big crush on him. I swore that he was my future husband. And I'll just share this part of the story too. So me and this guy, his name was Artie. I would like visit with him when I would travel to New Jersey, because like my grandparents were still living there. So every once in a while, my mom and I would go up there and help my grandparents out. You know, I visited with Artie a few times. And then one night, this beautiful Christian, God-loving man tried to have sex with me. He, you know, we were like making out in his bed, and he asked me if I wanted to. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I was so in love with him. And I like was like, what does it matter? Like, if I have sex with him, like for sure he's gonna marry me. Like, it would kind of like seal the deal between us, right? So I was like, yeah, I really want to. Let me just go to the bathroom really quick. I went to the bathroom and I prayed to God, and I was like, God, like, I really, really don't know what to do. I just felt like God was saying to me, like, Gabby, you are way more worth it. Do not sell yourself short to this. And in my heart, I knew that the man that is gonna be my husband someday, he's gonna wait, and it's gonna be worth the wait. And he's not gonna pressure me into, you know, having sex outside of marriage. And so I sadly, you know, went back to the bed and looked at him, and I was like, listen, we can't do this. I love God way too much, and I respect myself and my future husband way too much to just have sex. And I cried because I really wanted to, and it was really, really hard not to. But I'm very proud of myself for doing that, because like I could have easily had sex with him and I didn't, and it felt really good that I didn't, because he was like this beautiful Abercrombie model type guy, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I was like so in love with him. I Yeah, everything in me wanted to, but everything in my spirit knew I couldn't. So yeah, that happened. So after that guy already tried to have sex with me, I pretty much cut all connection with him because I was like, he's definitely not the one. I was so stupid. I was like, I'm done with this guy. And then I was just, concentrating on myself for a while. I had made a couple of friends that I was like starting to hang out with and stuff. At some point or another, either Michael would reach out to me or I would reach out to him, just saying like, hey, I miss you, or like, hey, how are things? Like, they were very innocent texts, but they were basically texts to let each other know that we were on each other's mind. It's kind of hard to put into words, but Michael and I have always truly loved and appreciated each other. But because we had two different mindsets and going down two different paths, I just knew that things wouldn't work out with him. But that didn't change our appreciation and love for each other. Like, just because I'm a follower of Christ and he's not, it never changed our appreciation and love for each other. So us going separate ways and completely just not talking to each other, it was hard a lot of the time. But we knew that we couldn't be together unless I, compromised and put my faith into a relationship. And maybe he will or maybe he won't end up following Christ one day. When you're in love, though, you do some pretty outlandish stuff. So after a little bit of talking, I want to say this was like in 2018. This was in 2018 because I had just, made the decision to go to that ministry school. Which if you had listened to my previous episodes, I went to a Christian ministry school and I had just made the decision to go there. And that was like, so I must have seen him in like June or July of 2018. And when I met up with him, he had like made the offer to me to move up north and he would pay for my college, he would support me, and we could live our life together. And I like kind of looked at him like he was crazy, and I was like, I just told you that I made the decision to go to this ministry college. I'm not gonna do that. And it was sad, it was really sad. Because we knew in our hearts that like we were still very much in love with each other and wanted to be with each other, but I knew that we couldn't. I can't even say like we knew that we couldn't be together. Like, I think he would have always tried to put his best effort forward and trying to make things work with me, but in my heart, like, I knew that it wasn't going to work out. By the way, if it seems like I'm jumping around a little bit, it's because the timeline is so weird, because we would go like a couple of months of talking, then back to not talking for a few months, and then we would end up talking again, and it was just a cycle of like talking, not talking, so the timeline might be a little bit screwed up. So Michael and I, like, we still kind of continue to talk as I'm going through this ministry school program, and I start sharing with him, the things about Christianity that I'm now learning about, like doing extended fast for 21 days, some people even fast for 40 days, and like praying in tongues and like healing miracles and things of that nature. And like he was just getting really upset because he thought I was buying into this like very religious false thing, and he didn't believe in it at all. And he actually told me that I was crazy and that I need to turn myself into a mental institution, and I really need to seek professional help because I'm already starting to go off the deep end, and he's just tired of seeing me suffer in the way that I am. He had actually said to me at one point that it's a shame to watch somebody as intelligent as I am go completely off the deep end like I was. When he said those things to me, I was pretty upset and very hurt, but then I realized like it was foolish for me to even be talking to an unbeliever and saying those things to him, because he had no belief whatsoever. So for me to share this very spiritual part of Christianity that even for me, like, it's hard for me to fully grasp my head around, like, how Jesus still heals people today, right? Like, it's a crazy concept, but it happens. But when you are ministering to an unbeliever, you have to be very gentle. The Bible even says you want to give a baby hard food before raising them on milk. Like, you got to give them milk, let them grow before you start introducing them to hard food. And I was basically trying to feed a baby steak by sharing with him what I was sharing with him. So, like, now I get it. Like, I knew that I was not ministering to him the right way, or I had no business in sharing all of that information with him. It was just also a very exciting time in my life. Like, I couldn't keep that information to myself, but, you live and you learn. So after Michael called me crazy and told me that I need to commit myself into a psych ward, we went back to not talking. So we didn't talk for quite a bit. I want to say like 6 months or so. And then I don't know exactly what it was, but I was also going to regular college at the time. Like, I was finishing my associate's degree in business at the same time as I was going to this ministry school. But I was at a coffee shop and it was like Memorial Day weekend. And for some reason, I got this really strong urge to call Michael. I don't know why. I don't know if I was just like getting in my feelings because it was a holiday and like maybe I was thinking about him extra. I don't know. But I called him and it went to voicemail. And then later that evening, he texted me and said, "I'm sorry I missed your call. Can I give you a call tonight?" And I said yes. So we actually got on the phone that night and he proceeds to tell me the story. And you guys don't have to believe it, but as far as I know, he's never lied to me. He's never had a reason to lie to me. The night before I called him, he was talking to his best friend. And they were just like sitting by the fire having a couple beers. His friend asks Michael, "Have you talked to Gab lately?" And he's like, "No, but I have a feeling she's going to call me either tonight or tomorrow." And sure enough, the next day, I called him. And when Michael finally pulled his phone out of his pocket and saw the missed call from me, he showed it to his friend, and his friend was like, "Oh crap, like, I don't know what kind of connection you guys have, but that's crazy." So yeah, very weird stuff like that has happened quite a few times between him and I. It's unexplainable, it's unbelievable, it's so weird, but it's happened. And this would only happen during the periods of time when we wouldn't be talking. But like, if I was really thinking about him, like strongly thinking about him, he said his ears would like burn, like they would get really, really hot and they would actually turn red. So like sometimes like he would send me pictures of his ear being red, and it would simultaneously be during a time when I was really thinking about him or thinking about reaching out to him. So yeah, really weird stuff like that would happen all the time. And I'm pretty sure him and I had a soul tie. When I started researching into soul ties, I was like, yep, we definitely have a soul tie or some kind of weird connection. So after we started talking again, we kept talking for a little while, just kind of bantering back and forth, like just like late night calls and stuff. And it wasn't every night. We would only reach out to each other every once in a while. He did wish me a happy birthday, which is in September. And then he did reach out to me on Thanksgiving as well. So when he reached out on Thanksgiving, we started to talk once again. And we actually planned a trip to see each other. And he came to Charlotte to visit me. And during that trip, even though it was like two best friends just hanging out and making memories together, I knew once again that it wasn't going to work out because, as soon as I would try to bring up God or have a discussion about God, like he would get defensive or upset, and I knew that I couldn't possibly be with someone who would get that upset over me bringing up the number one thing that has the most importance to me in my life. So after that, we went back to not talking once again. Then in February of 2019, I'm in Florida. I went on a little solo trip to Florida. I don't know if you've heard of the Send, but the Send was going to be in Orlando, Florida. So I just planned a little solo weekend trip to Florida. So during my little adventure, I was right outside of Universal Studios, and I was thinking it would be so fun to go, But I don't want to make those memories by myself. Like, that would be kind of weird for me to just go in there by myself. Like, I feel like that's the type of thing that you would do with at least a friend. So I started, like, really missing Michael at that point and thinking, like, oh, I wish he was here. Like, we would just have the best time ever if we were together right now. And so during that trip, I reached out to him and we started talking once again. But again, it was short-lived because it doesn't take long after talking to one another that I realized, like, even though I love him, we actually can't be together. There's absolutely no way we can be together. So 2019 was a very hard year. My great-grandma had passed away in May of 2019, and then my grandpa passed away in November of 2019. So having two losses was really difficult. But during this time, you know, like I said, I was involved with the Christian ministry school. I had made a few friends that I was hanging out with, so I wasn't really, like, focused on missing Mike as much during this time. But then on Christmas, it was like 10 o'clock at night too. Like, you almost made it past Christmas, dude. But he finally texted me on Christmas, and then later that night, we ended up getting on the phone and talking, and it was the same thing, you know. We realized how much we miss each other, and then we start talking. Then in 2020, I think it was February of 2020, I had planned a trip to go and see him. As y'all know, this was like right before COVID hit, but I visited with him, and it was like two best friends hanging out all over again. And on the last night of that trip, I said to him, I really wish that you would be saved and give your life to Jesus. Like, Jesus loves you so much. He just wants a relationship with you. I really want that for you. And he says to me, if you really think I'm going to become a man of God, you're barking up the wrong tree. When he says this to me, y'all, my heart broke into a million pieces. It shattered. I bolted into the bathroom and just sobbed. And he was like, come back here, like, let's talk about this. And, you know, I go and, like, I sit on his lap and I'm just, like, crying. And he's like, look at you, like, you're getting so worked up over this. Like, this isn't healthy. And I'm like, you don't understand. Like, Jesus is everything. Like, he's worth everything. And all I want is for you to give your life to him. And he just wasn't receiving it. So after I got home from that trip, I cut him out of my life, but we weren't done. We still had to go around the track a few more times, so we eventually started talking once again. I don't remember exactly when we started talking or what weekend we actually visited with each other, but I did see him again in August of 2020. And that was the very last time that I visited with him. But that was a very wonderful trip. We went on this very beautiful date to this restaurant that was on a lake, and we had a beautiful view. His friend was having a bonfire that night, so Mike had made sangria, and we went and had a few drinks with his friends, and that was really nice as well. We also went to a winery and just hung out, and then on the way home, we stopped and got ice cream and watched the sunset, and like, those were such nice times. And I was so certain that I was going to be seeing him again that I left a pair of shorts there, my favorite pair of shorts, and a pair of running shoes there. I left them at his house because I had a very strong feeling that I was going to be seeing him, but it just never happened. So after that trip, it was a very nice trip, and at this point I was like trying to just be patient and like hope that Michael would get saved and everything would work out, because we love each other so much. Like, he has to give his life to the Lord. Like, I love Jesus so much. We love each other so much. Like, it's gotta happen. So at this point, I was really trying to be patient with him and like hope that through my godly example, he would get saved. But one night, this was in October of 2020, so it's a couple months after we had visited with each other, but I was on the phone with him and he starts talking about redoing his basement and putting a bar in there and some TVs in there and turning it basically into a game room. And he said, I think I'm going to get a pool table so I can have awesome parties. And as he's saying all of this, I'm just sitting on the phone like the wheels are turning in my head. And right after we hung up, I was like, do I really want to be with a man like this? Like, I totally don't want to be with somebody who's just into drinking, or that's their goal, is to like put a bar in their basement. Like, I totally don't want that for myself. And so after that phone conversation, I didn't even say goodbye or anything. I just blocked him. I felt bad for doing that, but he also knew just from our connection that I was going to do that. Like, he said he never tried to reach out to me again after that. And as far as I know, he didn't. Like, I didn't even have any, because when you block somebody, you can still see their messages, even if they're blocked, but he didn't even try to leave me any messages. Then I got into a relationship that I totally should have not gotten into. I mentioned it in a previous episode, but that's when I dated that guy who was like 5 years younger than me. Such a stupid thing, but I think I was just trying to get over Michael, and I really don't know. I was kind of Twitter-peated because this guy was super cute, super fun to be around. He was a Christian, not a very good Christian, but he was Christian. And once I'm in a relationship with someone, I have this tendency to, even if something really bothers me, I have the tendency to let it slide. And so things were happening in this relationship that would be considered red flags like very early on, and I was just sweeping them under the rug, letting them slide. Like, one of the things was that he played video games on his phone pretty often, and that was like a giant pet peeve of mine. And another thing that he confessed to me very early in the relationship was that he had a porn addiction and that he just couldn't stop watching it or doing that. And I was like, okay, well, that's something that we need to pray about and fast about, and you need to seek counsel about that. And even though I was like heartbroken that he was doing that, I still didn't end things with him. But I really wish I had just ended things with him. Because there was other things that just, it didn't make sense that we were together. Like before I started dating him, I was very close with my friends, very focused on achieving my goals, and once I started dating him, I distanced myself from all my friends. I'm pretty sure my friends distanced themselves from me because they could see that I was making a terrible mistake, and I pretty much put all of my time and energy and focus into our relationship, and I put all of my goals on the back burner, which it was so stupid that we even dated, but I think I really needed that lesson as well, and I hope that he learned a few lessons too from that relationship. So there were other bad habits that I noticed after a very short time of being with him. Like, he was a big junk food eater. Like, he would eat a whole container of Oreos or a whole bag of chips in one sitting. And like, just in a few short months, I learned so much about him that just absolutely turned me off. And then after 6 months of being with him, I finally ended things with him. So now we're in August of 2021. I'm single once again, focusing on my relationship with God, my relationship with my friends, and wouldn't you know it, on my 27th birthday, Michael reaches out to me and wishes me a happy birthday. So then we start talking once again, and of course him and I start talking once again. Like, it's us, of course we do. And during this time in his life, he's very invested in cryptocurrency, and so that's all he would talk about. And then I wasn't as involved with cryptocurrency, so like, he would just be talking about crypto, and then he would get upset that I wasn't putting all of my free time into crypto as well. And so, and yes, I do believe it's important to invest your money wisely and just be educated about how to invest your money, but I don't let that kind of stuff like dictate my day or totally consume me. But it just seemed to be the number one priority in his life. Like, there were a couple nights where I asked him if we could talk on the phone, and he'd be like, yeah, in a little bit, and then hours would go by because he would be focused so much on his crypto portfolio that he would just kind of blow me off to focus on his crypto and like, yeah, I get it, that stuff's important, but aren't I important too? And so we continued talking, and I asked him a couple of times when we could see each other, and he would just say to me, I really want to see you, but I'm very busy right now. And I'm like, yeah, I understand. Like, it doesn't have to be like today or tomorrow. Just, I do want to see each other. And like a flight from New Jersey is only a couple of hours. So if he really wanted to, he could fly here on like a Friday and then go home on a Sunday. Like, we don't have to see each other very long. But I think it's important if you're in a relationship with someone, or you're really trying to grow with someone or create a future with someone potentially, it's important to make time to see that person and invest in that person. But we never did. But there was a lot of talk about planning a trip to see each other, but there was no action. So then on New Year's Eve of 2021, him and I finally have the talk that I have been avoiding for a while now. But I ask him, how come it seems like you're avoiding making plans to come see me? Because I keep asking you and you keep beating around the bush and not actually making plans to come see me. And he said, well, to be honest, it doesn't seem like you're doing much to help yourself right now. Like, you're working at Amazon, which I was, and you're not trying to continue your education or build any skills. You're just working and making money, and you're not really doing anything to help yourself. And hearing him say that to me just broke my heart, because I always compared myself to Michael because he's a very successful guy. Like, he's had the same career now for over 10 years, and he's very successful, very wealthy, very career focused, and I'm not that way. I honestly don't really have a steady career or a steady stream of income right now, and I'm not very proud of myself. And but hearing him say that to me kind of make my lack of success the reason why he wasn't planning to come see me or was avoiding seeing me. Like, it really hurt, because I loved him so much, and I would do anything to. So in that moment, I felt like I would never amount to the woman that he wanted me to be. Like, I just would never be as successful as he. So yeah, hearing him say that really just broke my heart, because I know I have a lot more to offer than just bringing money into our bank accounts or having a successful career. And that's when I realized it would never work out between us, because he has such a worldly mindset, and I'll never have that mindset, and I'll never be able to achieve what he's asking me to, or be the woman that he wants me to be. Like, really, he's so worldly, and I'm just a woman on fire for Jesus, living on a prayer that he might get saved one day. It's foolish. So before we hung up on the phone, he could tell I was very upset and hurt by what he said. And before we hung up, he said to me, text me in the morning, okay? And I'm like, okay. And right after we hung up, because I didn't want to like heavily cry on the phone, but right after we hung up, I just like bawled my eyes out. It was like all of that built up tension, I just like released it. And then I finally get off the bed and go to the bathroom, and I look myself in the mirror and I say, I am never gonna allow somebody to make me feel this way again. And I blocked him. So that was New Year's Eve of 2021. Now it's 2022. I'm the happiest and healthiest I've ever been in my life. Everything in my life is going really well. And then I unfortunately start talking to the next guy, who I would end up in another 6-month relationship with. And that's where the next chapter of my life begins. Thank you so much if you've made it to this point of the episode. This is a hard story to share because there's a lot of past that I had to talk about, and Michael will always have a special place in my heart. Do I think we'll ever get back together? I'm not sure. Do I still think in my heart that there's potential for us in the future? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. What I do know is that life is very short, and you have to be careful about who you invest your time into. It's taken a lot of lessons and a lot of wasted time and a lot of heartache and a lot of damage, and to be careful with who I invest my time into and my heart into. I'm exhausted now after all of that. That one was exhausting, but the next one is going to be even more exhausting because this might have been my longest situationship, but my most damaging situationship is something you have to stay tuned for. So thank you again if you made it to this point of the podcast. If you want to hear more of what I have to say, please subscribe to my podcast, subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on social media, and I will talk to you in the next episode. Be blessed, have faith, stay spoken, and I will talk to you very soon.